Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining the talk today. My name is Lee Boon Keng. I'm the director of the Center of Excellence in International Trading in Nanyang Technological University. Today, we're very happy to have Zheng Yu with us. She's the class of 2021 to kind of share his personal experience or personal journey through this program. So you see on your screen, there is a QR code that you can scan to join this evening's event, which essentially is held by our International Trading Club. So there's a very lively community in NTU right now that basically talks about commodities trading, international trading, and they organize a lot of events. And tonight, of course, we're going to have an event that you can kind of join and find out more about this club as well as, the program. So scan and join today. All right, so I'm going to just basically talk about what CEIT, the Center of Excellence in International Trading, does. And then I'm just going to jump into the undergraduate program we have here, which is called the International Trading Program. It's a specialization that essentially trains our students so that they are somewhat more desk ready when they join the international trading sector in the economy. So let me just talk a little bit about the center first. The center was formed maybe about 8 years ago with the help of Enterprise Singapore and I would say 8 corporate partners. But more importantly, it also involves pretty much a large part of the NTU community because we actually have students coming from the Nanyang Business School as well as the College of Engineering. So as you know, the College of Engineering has several schools in there, including electrical engineering, computer science, chemical engineering, etc. And within the civil engineering community, we also have a group of people who specialize in maritime studies. Right? So we actually have students coming from the College of Engineering, Maritime Studies, as well as Nanyang Business School. So that was how it started. We have only got 8 corporate partners at that time. And if you look at what the objective or the original objective, which is still pretty much what it is right now, is to actually create the talent pipeline, right, for the commodity trading industry. So as you know, Singapore is a very, very busy port. It's I would say, probably Asia's one of the largest trading centers in Asia, if not the largest. And so the ecosystem, right, is fairly deep and fairly wide, right? As such, right, the talent requirement, right, to join this industry is large. So ESG Enterprise Singapore came and talked to us and said that, look, the kind of feedback from the industry was that they need more diversity in terms of what kind of talent, right, is available for them to hire. And they felt that including the engineering people, the maritime people, into this highly interdisciplinary program, right, will really provide the width and the depth, all right, for the industry. And so that remains the objective. Of course, one of the other objectives of CEIT essentially is to build a very, very strong link between the university and the industry. All right, and that link, of course, allow us to do several things. Right, one of them is to bring what I call the industry into the classroom. Right, so if you think about it, right, one of the things that we want to do in our efforts to make the course such that students are more desk ready is to make it a lot more practical. Later, Zheng Yu can actually share with you, right, his experience when you go through the program. And the other one really is to ensure that we have that pipeline of internship right, to provide the work experience, right, for our students so that, they are kind of well prepared for the workforce. Last but not least is the fact that we also bring the classroom into the industry. How do we do that? By offering students what we call experiential learning trips. All right. So before the pandemic, of course, this was done much more. And due to the pandemic, we're kind of quieting it down. But we're kind of trying to build it up. Right. So later I'll share with you some of the experiential trips that students make in order to have kind of a real life experience in terms of how some of these commodities companies are operating. Right. So I think this makes the program, all right, extremely realistic, extremely meaningful, and creates a place for our students to jump into the workforce, quite well prepared. Okay, so from the beginning of 8 corporate partners, right now we've expanded to about, I would say, 43 corporate partners, and that relationship has continued to kind of grow. So given this huge network, right, we hope that there will be more touch points between, right, our students and companies that can offer various types of services and build a deeper relationship. So I would say that if you look at the 3 segments in the commodity trading space, agriculture, right, metals and minerals, as well as energy, all right, the corporate partners would come 1/3, 1/3, 1/3. That means we have 1/3 of our corporate partners focusing on agriculture, maybe 1/3 on metals and minerals, and the other third in the energy space. And they do have, we do have, right, very big names as well as smaller companies. Of course, working for big names and working for smaller companies have their various advantages as well, right? So depending on, what is your intention in terms of trying to learn from all these things. Okay, so I won't go through this particular slide. So I would say about 2 years ago, we actually expanded, right, this specialization to try to get students also from our chemistry department. So as you know, beyond the College of Engineering, beyond Nanyang Business School, we also have various colleges in NTU, and of course the sciences have a department in chemistry, and of course the feedback from the industry is, they do need students coming from the industry and for chemistry to join the industry rather. And you think that chemistry maybe is just for energy. Is not true, because agriculture has a lot of chemistry involved. All right, how you produce, how you refine some of these products to ultimately edible products, for example. All right, so so far we have students, I would think, not a big cohort, just 10 students, but it looks like there's a lot of interest. So we will very likely expand that, cohort from chemistry. And of course, over the next coming few years, we hope that we can also take students from other colleges in NTU. Okay, so also about a couple of years ago, we decided that instead of just focusing on specialization, we want to also open up the international trading program so that students can take a minor in them. All right, and the difference between the major and the minor is actually quite, I would say, almost non-existent, because they're actually the same thing. It's just that a specialization student probably have to also fulfill, right, certain other courses in business or engineering, whereas a person that's minoring in ITP, all right, essentially is not constrained to take a certain group of courses within that specialization. So I would say that all the specialization students and minor students all have to finish exactly the same number of courses related to ITP. And the courses are here, right? We have courses in commodities trading, commodity market, law, trade finance, related to shipping as well, logistic, a very important part. So I'm going to ask a question of Zheng Yu right now. You've gone through the program, obviously. Tell us a little bit about, the experiences going through this, right? Your interaction with the instructors.
Right. Yep. Thank you, Prof. Lee. I think pretty much all these courses and all these modules that we have in the courses, it's actually very curated to help you become more desk ready in the future, especially within the commodity space or in the finance space, right? So I think in all these courses, we have instructors from the industries themselves, and those people and these professors actually give very real life examples, and they are very relatable with what's happening in real life. And then I think that's really important, because what we learn in theory really is just theory, right? And then what translates down to the real life stuff is kind of very different. So the instructors there are here to kind of bridge that gap for us, and then it helps to give us a real flavor of what's going on in the real world. And then if we look across the different modules, it is very nicely created and segmented in a way where we have focuses on different aspects and in different areas of the course itself and what's important within the commodity space. So like, for example, like commodities trading, it kind of focuses on the more the trading fundamentals and how commodities are traded across the world. And then we talk about things like trade Incoterms and ship chartering that is really focused on how the ships move around the world and how logistically the commodities are structured in a way where it helps to value add to how commodities can be moved around the world, especially since all these commodities are moved around the world on ships mostly. All right, and I think pretty much all these courses are really important to us. That helps to become more desk ready ultimately.
Thanks, Zheng Yu. Yeah, so we have designed this course with the intention of training students so that they're more desk ready, so that when they jump into the industry, all right, the learning curve is not extremely steep. I'm glad that Zheng Yu is a testimony to that efforts, and of course, what we do right within the center, and for the program, is that we actually take a lot of feedback from the industry when it comes to how we can change this program so that they are constantly relevant to the industry. So most of our corporate partners are inside our advisory board. So every year we actually meet with our corporate partners formally in a advisory board meeting, and what we do is that we share some of the latest development within the industry and see how we can kind of revamp the program so that they are constantly relevant. Obviously, right now, one of the most important aspects about the commodity trading industry, I would say two rather than one. One relates, of course, to the issues of sustainability, right? And another one, of course, relates to technological disruption, all right? And as such, how we can constantly build this into the program. Recently, we have a conversation with one of our corporate partners, and his comments was, in fact, one of the most important aspects of trying to understand the commodity industry is crisis management, right? Most of you know that right now the world is in a period of heightened uncertainty. There's a lot of flux going on, and how, as a commodity trading company, right, how do you manage some of this crisis? All right, so probably in the next academic year, right, this program will be somewhat revamped to capture how we can kind of bring that aspect of kind of commodity, managing the commodity sector into the classroom. All right, so we are constantly revamping this. So as it is, this is what it stands, right? But I think it's important that we constantly get feedback from the industry, and we've been doing so. So earlier I mentioned about bringing the industry into the classroom. All right, so as you can see, we do it in several ways, right? One of the things that we do it, of course, is internship. Another one is what we call seminars, industry seminars, right, by our corporate partners, and not just our corporate partners, people from the industry as well. So what we do is that, the internship is not restricted to just within Singapore. All right, we have been placing interns outside of Singapore as well, included sometimes, I would say, scholarship sponsored by our corporate partners, all right, to bring our students for internships overseas. So this could be, as you can see from here, it could go for as far as Africa, all right, and China. We have interns that have gone to Myanmar, Vietnam, Indonesia, all right, and these are sometimes fully sponsored internship where the students actually, in addition to getting the paid for the internship, also get stipend for their daily expenses. Right, so within this community, I think the industry is trying very hard to ensure that they have a steady pipeline of talents that will enable them to tap on and grow the ecosystem. So I talk about bringing the industry into the classroom, and you can see we do a lot of things. And probably this evening you'll hear a lot about how the International Trading Club was run by students. All right, they play a major role in ensuring that these programs and these kind of events take place on a regular basis. And I believe that the ITC also hold training, all right, not just for people within the ITP, but anyone who's interested in the commodity sector, all right. I also mentioned about experiential learning, and these are some of the experiential learning that we have done. So, Zheng Yu, I heard, unfortunately, because of the pandemic, right,
Yep.
you were not able to go to some of this. What do you think from your senior, and you hear about some of these experiential learning? Anything to share with our audience here?
Ooh, yep. Yeah, I mean, like rightfully so. I think it's really tough period for I think my cohort, and also like some of the and also like the batches around mine, especially since with all things going on in Singapore and around the world with the pandemic. It's tough to travel, but yeah, I mean, I think this whole idea of experiential learning trips are important. I think it's really something that CIT offers, and it helps students to get exposure across different countries. We talk about like Perth, China, Indonesia, and those areas and these countries are where the commodities are very much operating within, right? Those countries are heavy in the commodity space. And for us students to go over and see physically for ourselves how these things move around the world and how these things are refined in the refinery, it really gives us a good flavor around what are we actually studying, right? I mean, we are always seeing things from paper, from a theory perspective, but we never really got a chance to kind of look at it in a physical means. And I think these trips itself give us a good flavor around these things. And I think it's very, very much important to understand all these things, because if you want to sell commodity A across from Singapore over to another country, and you have never touched or even seen the commodity itself and know how it's even refined in the first place, then it really gives us loses a little bit of touch to that sale itself. So I think all these trips are very much essential, and it helps students to get a good flavor of things going around the world.
Yeah. Just to add on to what Zheng Yu has said, I think most people think commodity trading involves sitting in front of a screen and kind of trading the prices and maybe doing speculative stuff. While some part of that is true, right? The truth is actually a lot wider than that. So within the community, or within the community of commodity trading, all right, you will see that a lot of this type of trading involves physical deliveries, right, where there is actual needs, all right, to receive, right, some of this product for all kinds of end products, all right. So as a result, when you're trying to sell, for example, edible oil, some of you are more perhaps are more familiar with, for example, knife brand oil or this kind of, how are they made, right? What is the process? What is the process of, getting from the fruits itself, which is palm oil, right, all the way down to something that's edible, all right? And as a result of that, right, it makes trading in that space, right, a little bit more relatable, all right? And therefore, when people talk to you about palm oil, right, you can see why people need palm oil, all right? And if you think about energy, right, all of us perhaps think of energy as something that fuels the air conditioning here, the lights and all these things, or even run our cars. But at the end of the day, right, energy has so many grades, right, so many different types of uses, right? It could be for aviation, it could be for automobiles, it could be, to run the factory, whatever. So all different types of things, right? Once they are made more relatable, right, it's a lot easier for us to, right, live within that space or operate within that space. So let me just share with you a little bit on what is on the screen. This is where we went to Indonesia, one of our corporate partners, who basically, runs the full value chain, right, of palm oil. All right, so it goes from growing the trees themselves, all right, to actually the milling process, to the refining process, to ultimately the distribution channels. All right, so to actually bringing to the supermarkets, all right, to have them sold, right? How do they record the sales, et cetera, et cetera? So what we did was basically we went there, right? We live right within the plantation, right? So that gives you a sense of how that whole plantation is being operated, and it was quite an eye opener because you realize that it is actually a huge community, right? Within the plantation, there are nurseries for the plants, all right, and the various stages, right, for the ultimate harvesting of the palm oil. And right, surprisingly, there are schools inside the plantation for the children of the workers. There is a hospital, and there are recreational facilities. So it's a big community. So I think the experience was very meaningful. All right, and the next one is where the students actually went to, again, our corporate partners, but this one is mining alumina, right? So they finally refine, the bauxite into aluminum, all right, which then they, ship out, right, from Australia, all right? And of course, understanding the whole value chain is very important. And one of the surprising things that, at least for me when I went there, was actually the mine was very clean. Right, you always have this impression that the mine is full of dust and everything is dirty and whatnot. No, it was actually very clean because it's very important to keep the mine clean and safe. All right, so there's very special efforts to do so. So I think those experiences were very important to our students. And of course, when we were in all these places, it wasn't just meeting or just visiting these places. We also arranged for students to learn from various companies, all right, that operate various types of businesses in the commodity space. So we will get talks about gold mining, for example, in Perth. Obviously, they also have a big gold mining industry there. And of course, that just enhances the entire experiential learning trip for them. Okay, so unfortunately, we were not able to go in the last couple of years, but we hope that as VTL starts to expand, right, we hopefully can arrange more of these trips. So we do twice every year during the school breaks. And just for your information, all right, as students of the International Trading Program, we actually highly subsidize this trip, right, at a minimum of 50%, right, so that the students all get or as many students can get that kind of experience. So the next thing I'm going to move to is actually on the employment prospects, all right, once you've graduated. So these are all this information for ITP students, okay. So I would say from the survey that we have got, all right, roughly about 91% of our students will find a job within the first 6 months, right, or upon graduation. So that's a fairly good statistics. And if you look at some of the companies that have actually employed our students, of course, this is not the entire group of companies that employ our students. Just some examples of that. You can say that they actually span quite a bit of breadth, right, in terms of where these industries come from. We do have, banks, right? We even have private equity companies, insurance companies. And so you can see that the ITP program actually creates a high level of versatility as well as options for our students. Of course, a lot of things starts with internship. So I'm going to ask Zheng Yu again, right? Obviously, you went through some internships. Share with us, how those internships were like and how you have kind of, through those internships, right, benefited from them.
Right. I think internships are essential for all students in NTU itself, and I think specifically in ITP, I think before I even touch on the internship aspect that I experienced, I think it's always important to understand that CIT supports the program a lot, and we have, like Prof. Lee said, we have like 43 corporate partners and counting, and these people are the ones who actually helps to give you that opportunities out there, and and they are there to kind of support your pathway and your journey across during NTU in NTU, and that helps to kind of give you opportunities that you may not have even encountered elsewhere, even in other job portals and external job portals. So I think that's good to highlight. And I think personally, myself, I think the internship experiences have given me a lot of real experiences as to what is really going on in the world. And I think it's also a good experience for me to find out what I actually want to do and what I am really not interested in. Because, I mean, in reality, at this point in time, we would not know what we want to do. And internships are like perfect opportunities for us to go through and for us to even have this kind of exploration phase for us to understand what we like and what we don't. Unfortunately, maybe we don't have like that many opportunities out there because maybe we have like 3 or only 4 years across to kind of do internships. But it's really up to the students to kind of like go out of the way to kind of do part-time internships and even do full-time internships during their schooling phase, just so that they can get the opportunities and get the experiences out there as interns. And I think personally, in doing those interns, right, it also helps to give you an opportunity for you to get employed at the end of the day, right? Because I think for most parts, not all students will go through the whole finding a job phase at the end of their university life, right? Some of your peers may have gotten their roles within like 3 years or maybe even like halfway through their NTU life. And that's essential, right? Because some companies are only looking out for their full-time employees through their internship programs.
Yes.
And that's important, right? Because that's the only opportunity that you have to get into the company itself. So if you want to if you already have a view at what you want to do in life and what you want to do across for your career, and you know that early, great, kind of sign up for the internships, and then those things can help you leap through to the full-time roles very much easily, and that process itself is more streamlined.
Yeah. Great, thanks, Zheng Yu. I'd like to add a few things on the internship program. So, the internship for ITP students, in a way, is much more supported than, let's say, generally, right, for a lot of students. And that, of course, is because the center actually have sufficient resources to help students, all right, find good internships. So beyond just, the students, beyond just the corporate partners actually offering the internship, the more important thing, of course, is try to match, all right, the right interns with the right company. And for that, right, we actually have a dedicated staff within our Career Services Center to actually deal with ITP students. All right, so as ITP students, right, you actually get, very direct access, very focused and concentrated access to this. And we have developed, as what Zheng Yu said, portals that are essentially just focusing on that, right? So a student coming into the program can what we call claim, right, the app, and then use that app to actually place his or her CV, and then the app will try to match the job as well as find mentors for that person. All right, and that is, of course, more dedicated for ITP students as well. I think, of course, within the internship industry, in the internship space, I would say the university is also kind of evolving. So right now, right, in addition to saying that, all NTU students must do an internship, and that's true, all NTU students must do an internship before they can graduate. In addition to that, we're trying to grow what we call work-study program. All right, so a student will go out there and do a very extensive internship for 35 weeks. All right, that's about 9 months. And within those 9 months, right, the students actually also go through a kind of study process. That's why it's called a work-study program. All right, and of course that just increases the chance, right, that student will get hired ultimately by the company, because the company has spent more time, get to know the student, and if the student is someone that they're looking for, all right, they get a higher chance of being hired. So we're also kind of working on this work study program, which will be launched by the time you guys come in. All right, the option will already be available for you. All right, so it's constantly evolving, it's constantly improving. Okay, so I move on to look at the various industries. As you can see, right, it's quite extensive. We have students going to healthcare, even, right? Students going into finance and insurance, of course, make out the bulk of it. All right, and you can see the kind of jobs that they're doing. Trade brokers there. We have financial analysts. We have market research analysts. And as such, I think the program is actually tailored such that students can easily find a job. So I'm going to just leave a last word for Zheng Yu to see if there's any words of encouragement for our students or our prospect students.
Right. I think what's important here is, like, I think CIT provides that distinction between yourself and the rest of the business students. And I think specifically in banking and finance. Not to say that if you are majoring in banking finance as a major itself is wrong. I have nothing wrong with that. But it's just that if you are truly passionate and if you are really looking out to explore into different areas around the financial space, because the commodity space is not just about the commodities and the physical commodities. It's really about combining both financial stuff and also the commodity stuff, which I find is a really good hybrid for people who like the idea of finance itself. So if you are someone who likes a little bit something a little bit different from the conventional finance stuff, I think CIT is a good place for you to explore, because it gets you kind of get the best of both worlds, right? And you kind of get flavor of the physical stuff, and you get a flavor of what's going on the screen, the paper markets, and also the financial markets. So I think if that's what you're looking for, then I think it's definitely something that you should go for. Yeah.
Thank you, Zheng Yu. Thank you for taking the time to share your experiences with us, and we're very happy that our alumni continue to come and contribute. We do have a very active alumni community, so we continue to hope that person like Zheng Yu can continue to come and support us and give back to the school and for the larger community. Thank you very much, Zheng Yu.
Thank you, Prof. Lee.
So the next thing that we're going to do is talk about this evening's program. So we are going to have Brenna. Brenna, of course, is again one of our students, a current student, all right, and she is, of course, also with the International Trading Club, ITC, and she's with the liaison with the corporate partners, so she would have a lot of touch points with the corporate partners. So I'm glad that she's here to share that kind of experience and some of the activities, right, that will be held by the International Trading Club. So I'm going to pass the floor to Brenna. Brenna, again, thank you very much for helping out and sharing your experience with our students. So Brenna.
Hi everyone, thank you for being here as well. I'm Brenna. I'm currently a Year 2 business student specializing in Banking and Finance International Trading Program. So I'm also currently a member of International Trading Club in the Corporate Liaison Department. So what we do here is, for us corporate liaison, we tend to deal with a lot of corporate partners. So we hold like networking sessions with them where students can come to the session and ask about, what's the company like, the culture, how's the trading industry, and learn more about the internship opportunities or full-time graduate opportunities. So there's always a lot of these networking sessions that we hold that will really benefit the ITC members as well as the ITP student community in general. And actually, there are also other departments in the International Trading Club if you're interested. Maybe you're more interested in the education or learning more about the technical knowledge in the international trading industry. So we also have the education department where, we will have a weekly write-ups on the current affairs, on what's happening in the world, how does it affect the commodity prices, the supply and demand. So if you're more interested in, getting to know about the technical knowledge of it, then you can also join us in the education department. And we also have projects and also the marketing department where we have planned events. For this academic year, I think we had the ITP Day, which is around December last year. So in this ITP Day event, we have seniors and alumni as well coming down to share about how has their experience been in ITP and what they're currently doing in their full-time graduate job as well. And seniors sharing about their internship experience. We also had 3 industry speakers. If I'm not wrong, they're from Trafigura, South 32, and Wilmar. So at that time, we had fireside chats with them, and students get to ask questions like, how has it been so far working in the trading industry? What's the culture like? What is the important soft skill or technical skills that you need to do well in the commodities industry? So we have a lot of events coming up as well. And we have International Trading Case Competition coming up in August, as well as the recruitment drive for International Trading Club, which will also be held around the same time, August, September. So really look forward to see all of you there.
Thank you, Brenna. So as you can see, the ITC is a very, very active club. Of course, as the director of CIT, we're very grateful that students actually take the time to spend, with fellow students and create the bigger community. And of course, from our end, we provide a lot of support. Right, this could be technical support, financial support. For example, prices for the competition, et cetera, to really drive and enhance, right, the learning experience and the social experience as well that our students have when they're going through this. Of course, when the pandemic is kind of subsided, we hope that a lot of all these events can be done physically. All right, which means that we actually have a much better touch points. We're already doing some of those, but hopefully, we'll go back to where we kind of left off back in 2019, where we have evening events where we invite our corporate partners to talk on hot button topics, any topic. I'm sure if it's not the pandemic, we would have topics that talk about, what energy prices and inflation mean, right, given the kind of conflict that we're seeing between Russia and Ukraine right now, right, and that just kind of bring the world, right, what's really happening around the world, all right, much more apparent and much more life to some of our students. So again, this evening, right, Brenna and her fellow students in the ITC will be hosting again, right, info sessions on how you can play a more active role, all right, and contribute to the community. So you see on the screen there is the QR code, all right, so scan and register, and we hope to see all of you this evening again, right? So again, thank you very much for spending the time with us. We really appreciate that once you either join NTU or are considering, right, specializing, your specialization, that you will consider ITP. All right, so have a good day, and I hope to see all of you again.
Choose MBS because it empowers you to be your best, because it helps to discover a better you for the future that you dream of.
Basically, to find ourselves and to learn how you can make an impact in this world.
Come to NBS to experience a different you. See you at NBS.
See you at NBS.
See you at NBS. See you at NBS.
I look forward to seeing you at NBS.